There is no going back. Ex-President of Russia D. Medvedev, who clearly clarifies the Kremlin's position for those who do not understand it well, or refuse to believe in it, commented on Putin's decision on referendums in the occupied territories of Ukraine, and the subsequent incorporation of these lands in the Russian Federation from Ukraine. D. Medvedev's message is that the RF armed forces will defend the new territories by means of any Russian weapons, including strategic nuclear weapons, and weapons based on new principles. He also recalled, hypersonic weapons make it possible to reach targets in Europe, and the United States. As he summed up, the Western establishment, and all citizens of the NATO countries need to understand that Russia has chosen its own path. There is no going back. Thus, D. Medvedev confirmed the interpretation of those analysts who insisted that the main thing in Putin's address to the people on September 21, 2022 was not the announcement of mobilization among the Russians, but the threat to Ukraine, and the West to use nuclear or other weapons of mass destruction. Since the conventional means of armed struggle did not help to achieve success at the front, the Kremlin decided to raise the stakes, and escalate the conflict. Moreover, Russia's nuclear threat does not, however, stipulate the launch of intercontinental ballistic missiles flying towards London. The Russian Federation has other options. Therefore, Moscow has been using nuclear blackmail against Kyiv for half a year, regularly shelling the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Now the Russians can blow up the dry storage facility for spent nuclear fuel located near the Zaporizhzhia NPP or, even worse, make a blast at one of the power units. Formally, they will blame the armed forces of Ukraine for everything, and will talk for a long time about the fact that it made no sense for them to undermine the nuclear facility, which they themselves controlled. But, in fact, it will be a very eloquent message to Kyiv, a kind of I know that you know. If the armed forces of Ukraine still do not stop the offensive, and the West coalition together with the Allies does not stop supplying them with weapons, the Kremlin may give the order to attack other nuclear power plants on the territory of Ukraine with missiles. In addition, the Russian armed forces can drop a nuclear charge into the sea near Odessa or Mykolaiv so that the tsunami caused by the shock wave washed away some part of the Ukrainian port. In the end, the Russians can use tactical nuclear weapons directly on some dense locations of the armed forces of Ukraine. In any case, Moscow pursues one goal: to intimidate the Ukrainians, and force Kyiv to negotiate peace, de facto, to surrender, and also to blackmail the West coalition, and its allies, and force them to abandon military, defense industrial, and financial support for Ukraine. Under these conditions, the countries of the anti-Putin coalition, firstly, should speed up, and intensify the supply of weapons for the armed forces of Ukraine, primarily air defense systems, and long-range missiles. Secondly, it is necessary to change the principles of sanctions pressure on the Russian totalitarian state. Although the restrictions imposed on the Russian Federation are unprecedented, they does not differ from the first restrictive measures imposed by the European Union and the United States back in 2014 after Russia's occupation of Crimea and unleashed war in Donbas. We are talking about the principle of noose, the slow suffocation of the economy, and symbolic punishments for those in power to give them time to wake up, either to someone in the Kremlin, or to the counter-elites, or to the highest ranks among the security forces. However, the war of the Russian Federation against Ukraine has already been going on for more than 8 years, and, according to experts, Putin's regime can last for another 5 to 6 years. Yes, this regime inevitably falls into the abyss. However, taking into account Moscow's increased nuclear blackmail, and the high likelihood of nuclear threats being implemented on the territory of Ukraine, the anti-Putin coalition of the West and allies should introduce a complete embargo on trade with Russia, and a total ban on maintaining any economic ties with this country, openly recognizing himself as a global nuclear terrorist.